Hey, my name is Clay. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about how your living space, the environment you surround yourself with every day, where you come home to, changes how you show up in your life every day. Today I'm going to share my own experience with how my living spaces have affected me throughout the years and how living in a place that doesn't feel safe to you can really make you show up in a different way throughout your life. Maybe it affects how you show up in your relationships, how you show up at work, um, even how you rest. And so it's so important to learn how to make a space that feels like you. And I'm going to tell you my story about how I'm finally am living in a place where it feels like me, and then how you can create that in your own living space. So, my childhood home, it was my parents' house, and I lived with them for 22 years. I felt very depressed and alone during that time period, and so I spent a lot of my time disassociating, a lot of my time coping. So I ended up developing addictions from a young age, and the same thing happened when I moved in with an ex of mine. I was disassociative, I was lost, I didn't know who I was, I had no sense of identity, and because I had all of because of the people that I lived with, it was creating a situation where there was no way I could have grown. And if I had continued to stay in those places, I would have been stuck and unsafe. Two of the places I've lived felt completely lifeless. They had no character. There was no piece of me anywhere in the place. Um, and it felt like I was living in a hotel, which makes it really difficult to feel inspired or creative. And so, living in that space, I really struggled to achieve anything that I wanted to. I was having issues going to the gym consistently, having issues working on my ambitions. I had no sense of identity, furthered by the fact that there was no identity displayed in the place that I was living. I wasn't surrounded by who I was, and I didn't have a good sense of that for myself. So it was really difficult to make a life that I wanted for myself. And when I moved out from those spaces and live where I live now, um, I really made an effort to curate the space, to make a place that felt like me, that felt good to live in, somewhere I could like wake up and feel good about living, and makes me smile when I think about or see the different ways I've made this place mine. It it excites me and inspires me to live here because then I can feel like I have somewhere I can call home for whatever that looks like for me, and then I can use that as like a foundation through which I can create the life that I want. I use 5 rules to make my place feel like it supports who I am. One, the first one is to reduce friction. Friction is it's those little pain points throughout your day. Maybe you have visual clutter throughout your house. Maybe you're sitting at your desk and you can see out of the corner of your eye uh, toys or empty cups, whatever is around you, and that even if you don't consciously think about it, it does still subconsciously affect your mood and how you feel living there, especially when you're trying to focus on something like work. Maybe you often lose your keys or your phone, and that causes like conflict in your day or stresses you out. Or maybe your trash can is so far away from where you create the trash that it's just too much friction to walk over there and throw it away. And while that seems like it should be small, all of these little frictions add up throughout the day, and it just saps your energy like a vampire, a leech, and it makes it difficult to have enough energy for the things you care about when there's just these little drains throughout the day. So one way you could fix this is by adding an additional small trash can in your living room, let's say. Maybe you make trays or buy trays for your keys or your phone, and that's like the designated location for it. Maybe you create a system that helps you prevent the clutter that's building up and stressing you out. Like there's always something that you can do to reduce the impact and reduce the amount of friction in your life and in your living space. Number 2 is to decorate intentionally. I'm going to put pictures of some spaces that I feel are lifeless. They might look good on the surface, but can you tell who lives there? These rooms might belong in like a furniture ad, but not as a place someone lives. There's no personality, no passion or self-expression. I'm going to show some spaces I like on the screen now. So the decorations someone puts up can give you a glimpse of who they are. It tells you what they love, what they're passionate about, what inspires them, what they do. And I want you to imagine how those people must feel to be able to see things that they love every day. Like the decorations I have up behind me, right? I love Pokemon, I love cars, I love music. And by being able to see those from within my house every day, it really reinforces the things I care about, makes me feel like I know who I am, and also I get to share a piece of me with anyone that visits my space. When I surround myself with the things that I care about, it inspires me. It makes me feel safer and more comfortable, like this is actually my space and my home rather than just a place that I live in. The third rule that I use when I am curating my home is I try to create distinct zones for each activity. This is important because each activity doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? So if you have your work laptop in your bedroom, this might lead to anxiety or stress from work bleeding into your sleep, which will then affect you the next day when you show up to work and make you produce less quality work or just be less productive in general. If you relax and work in the same space, say you use your work laptop at your couch in your living room, which is the same place that you watch TV at, chances are you're going to be distracted when you're trying to work by wanting to relax. And also, it'll be more difficult to relax because it's the same place that you work. So work stress and anxiety can bleed in there too. So how do you implement this? If you can, it's best to assign a room for each activity. I know this isn't possible for everyone. So there's a couple of hacks, for lack of a better term, that let you still implement this without having a lot of room in your home. A couple things you can try are room dividers, like the one I use to separate my eating area from my workspace, and rugs, like the one I have in my living room, which lets me, again, create a distinct zone for relaxation, so there's less bleed over between activities. I try to create at least 3 different zones, one for sleep, one for rest, relaxation, play, enjoyment, and one for work. And that lets me give each activity the attention and presence that they require, which helps me to ensure that I'm showing up how I want to show up every day as best as I can. My fourth rule is to think about all of your senses. So what you see isn't the only thing that affects your experience within your place, right? So how does your place smell? How does it sound? What are the various textures? Do they make you feel good, or are they harsh and abrasive? How does your couch taste? Important questions. And you can adjust all of these to make you feel more comfortable. For smell, maybe that means you light a candle, you get an oil diffuser, or you burn some incense. If you don't like the city noises around your place, then you can install foam tape around your windows or doors to make them a little bit more sound insulated. If you like how your place sounds, like maybe there's birds chirping outside, then you can open your window to get a little bit more to make that experience a little bit more present for you. For touch, think about the textures in your home. Think, can I replace this with something softer? Maybe you have an old blanket. Something softer might be nice. Maybe you add a rug to a hardwood floor. Thinking about all of these different senses and how they affect you in your own space can let you create a more holistically safe and comfortable place. So it's important to look at. My fifth rule, more of a question, is what is my emotional experience like here? Inviting people into your home that stress you out or give you anxiety can create a negative association around you, which often lasts long after they leave. Maybe you have a friend that comes over and they constantly disrespect your boundaries, or maybe you have an ex that visits or a girlfriend that visits that makes you feel shitty. Maybe you have a family member that comes over and they just make you feel miserable, or they disrespect your boundaries and you don't feel like you can do anything about that. Maybe you feel unsafe or dissatisfied about where you live, in which case maybe you can start looking for the next place you'll live. Oftentimes we can't change our current circumstances, but just taking an action in the right direction makes us feel a lot better. These rules help me create a space that feels safe, exciting, and comfortable to be in. And having a space that supports you helps you show up as the best version of you every day and to be authentically yourself. So I encourage you to ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that will make my place feel more like a home? And I don't want you to overwhelm yourself. The easiest way to make lasting change is to make it over time sustainably. I'd love to read your comments. Post one thing that is in your home that makes you feel either supported or drained, and maybe your share will help someone. If you want personalized support around mental health, relationships, and self-discovery, I help people like you with that every day as a life coach. I offer free consultation calls, and the link is in the description. Have a great day.